Chapter. Wait a minute, everybody's wearing yellow today?
Oh no, I was just exercising. Oh, you got yellow on? Chantel, you got yellow on?
I do.
Oh, so we both got the memo, huh?
Yeah, I guess we got the yellow memo. I don't know if Andy or Reed.
Commissioner Roberts, did you get appointed or voted into a committee? I was online and I saw your name twice. What was that committee? I forgot.
For what? And
what the mayor's?
Oh no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What was I saw it on there? Chantel Roberts.
You might be telling me something.
I saw,
Chantel, the transition team is so big, you might be on it and not even know it.
Oh, don't go back. Don't go backwards in there.
Look, I am. As far as I know, I have not been contacted to participate on any committees.
Yeah, you were voting on something. Maybe it was one of our committees. I have to look again. Because it was from the city council. I forgot what it was. It's just so much I was watching. I said, oh wow, congratulations, you got voted on something. I'll look and see what I saw if I can find it.
Me, Commissioner Bondima, if you come across it again.
Okay, I will.
Got it.
Are we ready? Is everybody here?
I think we're waiting for Commissioner Reed and Commissioner Frank.
Oh, is Frank going to be here?
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure if Commissioner Frank's going to make it, but I think it is safe to wait a couple more minutes for Commissioner Reed.
Okay. How you doing, Dr. Washington?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. All those babies, okay?
Lynette, did you hear the question?
Yes,
all
the babies are okay.
How are you?
Yes, they are all doing well.
Oh, good. Allison, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have I can't imagine how Chief Washington is doing it with small children and being a chief. So it's amazing.
I don't want to go back there again.
Go to daycare, so we manage.
It is still an accomplishment not to be underestimated.
That's right. Allison, we passed that stage, didn't we?
We sure did. I just got, big people 6 foot tall people walking around my house.
Oh my God. Well, Jalen came home for the first time from California after being gone a year because we couldn't go to his graduation. And he arrived at Maria's house and they quarantined him in the other house. So he's quarantined for about a week, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We all came out to the yard and waved and oh, I love you and all of that. He was so glad he was home.
Yeah, that's
for a minute, not for long.
Yeah. How are you, Commissioner Roberts?
I am okay. I'm caught in a house with a 7-year-old that reminds me of countdown on Christmas every day. Because I forgot about it. It's new to me. I didn't know that Christmas was coming. I'm reminded every day, a number of times each day.
I'm sure he does. Well, that's great. That's a fun time.
Speaking of which, I think it would be a fun icebreaker as we wait for Commissioner Reed to log on. If everybody could add their thoughts in emoji form in the chat box around having a potential snow wintry mix tomorrow.
Does that have to be emoji or can be a GIF? GIF. I'm so.
It could be a GIF too. GIF, emoji. What are your first thoughts that come to mind about your first snow day potentially tomorrow?
All right.
I can't find the emoji on here.
Go into the chat box, Commissioner Bond.
Okay.
Commissioner Roberts, Commissioner Reed is here.
Wonderful.
Oh, good.
And I'm not doing any stinking emojis.
Okay.
Wow,
Sounds like
French, Commissioner Reed.
Sounds like Commissioner Reed to say that.
Emoji this. Okay. How you doing, Allison?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
I think we're about ready, aren't we?
I think so. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending today is December the 15th. Thank you for attending the December 15th Operations Committee meeting. We can get started with the sustainability report for school year 2019-2020. Who will be joining us for that presentation?
Hi, good morning. I'm Joanna Pisunier, and I'm the Sustainability Analyst, and I will be sharing a presentation today. And Rajeshri Bachubai, our Energy Manager, is also in attendance.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
It's nice to see you. Let me share my screen. Are you able to see my presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So today I'll be doing a quick run through of the sustainability work last school year, and then at the end talk a bit about the upcoming school year. So to remind folks, we do have a sustainability plan that was passed in 2018. We have 6 different issue areas for that plan, and you can see all of the different categories here. So I'll be running through these in this order. All of this work ties in directly to the blueprint and the equity policy, and so that is really front and center throughout this work. The sustainability efforts really are integral to all of this, and my work has been trying to not have it be seen as something extra and on the side and only to do when we have time. I believe this is extremely urgent and extremely important that we find a way to integrate it in, and that it will help us achieve all of our existing goals in all of these different categories. So we will be viewing how that fits in as we go through this presentation. A number of references are made to different documents, and those can all be found either by going to the sustainability page on the City Schools website, or we have a Google Drive set up with additional resources, which can be linked to from that sustainability page as well. A moment to talk about what green schools are, because that term is used by a lot of different people in different ways, and we view that primarily in 2 ways. The first is about the bricks and mortar of our schools and our buildings, and how can we make our operations have less of an impact on the earth and be healthier, better places for our students and staff to be. And the second piece is about our students and environmental literacy, and how can we find ways to engage students and have them learn and understand about the environment and about their role in the environment, and that no matter where any of us or any of them is, they are part of an environment and an ecosystem. And all of this work together moves our academic well-being and achievement, our mental health, and our physical health forward. So starting with the environmentally literate students, that being the core of our mission, the first piece is we have focused on providing training to our staff and our teachers, working with external partners and our own expertise in-house to help train teachers of how to integrate this work into their classrooms and their schools, as well as with our staff who are implementing many of the things. So those may be our maintenance staff, our food and nutrition, and our custodial staff. We have worked to continue integrating this into the curriculum. So we have, with the Office of Teaching and Learning and the Science Office, have a number of curriculum embedded STEM experiences. And of course, as in much of this presentation, a lot of this work was truncated last year due to the pandemic, but we did make progress on strengthening our ties with area institutions to create and continue to grow robust in-person field experiences for our kids to help bring this work to life. Calling attention to the second grade science curriculum, the unit What Do Plants Need? We have furthered a really strong relationship between the science office and Great Kids Farm, which is run by Food Nutrition Services. And rather than the system that we had at the farm for many, many years, which was whichever teacher raised their hand was able to get funds to go on a field trip to go to the farm, which led some kids to be able to go there multiple times over their K-12 career and other kids to not go at all. We've made a real effort to say we want all second graders to get there, regardless of where you go to school. And so we have made some great progress on that. And that has been a very well-received program by the 4 farms to school educators who are based there and teachers who are able to bring their kids there. Another program is the 4th grade social studies, so that's separate than the STEM program, but I just wanted to call a quick attention to that. That's an ongoing partnership with the National Park Service and Baltimore City Rec and Parks, and has been very successful of getting kids out to our parks and learning about both cultural history and environmental history. We have lots of partners throughout the city and the region who are interested in working with us. These are only some of them, and I just wanted to highlight them and thank them for their work. They are helping to train teachers, they are hosting students, they are visiting schools, they are doing all sorts of great work with us, and we really appreciate their partnership. Moving to the next category of healthy school environments, starting with our green cleaning effort called Cleaning for Health. This is something that we have had for several years. It is of particular interest right now, given COVID. I would like to first say that the disinfectant that we chose several years ago is approved against COVID-19, so we really did not have to change our practices. What we have had to do is really just continue to train people on the best ways to use that in a safe and method. Starting in the summer of 2020, the district office did start providing the disinfectants to traditional schools. And we have continued to do outreach with custodial staff, school leaders, and also with contract custodians about their cleaning chemicals, helping to troubleshoot what they need. And our charter schools are all in compliance with our cleaning protocol. We unfortunately have had some challenges prior to this and continuing of schools buying some of their own products to augment the approved ones. And that really is tied to a couple of different pieces that I want to just quickly highlight. The first is that we have a very decentralized purchasing system. So individual schools buy all of their own cleaning products. And that is very different than a number of other districts across the state. Limiting items on our catalog is also technically challenging. And schools are able to submit requisitions from other vendors. And unfortunately, our limited procurement staff is not able to monitor every single requisition to make sure that every single cleaning product meets the criteria. So we will be continuing to focus on that and on the education side of this, and really, helping people to move in the right direction for this, for the health of their custodial staff and the health of our students and staff in those buildings. Providing optimal learning environments is crucial at our schools. So our design and construction team and our facility maintenance and operations team have made some great strides in air quality issues, water, HVAC, and AC. So these are highlighting several of the efforts that were completed last year to help with all of that work, which is of course continuing into this year as well. And the air filtration piece is also of utmost importance given the COVID-19 pandemic. And so really focusing on that has been a huge effort to improve the air quality in our buildings for safety. Nutrition education is a crucial piece of the Healthy School as well, and partnering with Food Nutrition Services and Office of Teaching and Learning has helped bring a lot of both education to individual classes and curriculum, as well as experiential events at Great Kids Farm, which has been an exciting piece to see kids learning more about healthy eating and nutrition. Moving to reduce and conserve natural resources, reducing solid waste is a big effort. So while we focus on the recycling, which has a number of our schools have all signed up for that. The City Department of Public Works picks up recycling from us once a week. We are also trying to figure out ways that we can actually reduce the amount of items that we are generating. Food Nutrition Services was ahead of the curve in abandoning the styrofoam trays, which are now outlawed in Baltimore City and are using all compostable cutlery and compostable to-go products now in the meal service. And our Information Technology Department continues with the e-cycling program. Conserving energy is a huge effort. Raj, as I said, is here on the call with us. We went through a software upgrade with our Energy Manager software, which is a component of the School Dude program. And so that means we have been brought into the 21st century of user-friendly interface. We spent a lot of time upgrading or updating the data in there, square footage changes, things like that. We also completed a number of lighting upgrades using BGE rebates. The building automation systems have made huge progress and been able now to see nearly all of our buildings remotely and monitor temperatures and identify when there are problems. And then Graceland and Hollabird, which this picture is of, were under construction during last school year, are now open, and those are net zero energy buildings. And so we will be focusing a lot on energy education with staff and students this year. Improving school green spaces was also a focus. We continued the farms to school specialists at Great Kids Farm are also available to help individual schools. We partnered with master gardeners. The City Department of Public Works was able to remove a lot of pervious surface at 14 schools to help meet stormwater management requirements that they have with the state of Maryland. And we also partnered with the City Office of Sustainability and Recreation and Parks on a symposium called Nature Nurtures, where there was cross-sector training and information sharing between teachers and environmental educators about effective trauma-informed care and other opportunities for collaboration. Engaging school communities is a crucial piece. We have some success where schools are in fact designating a sustainability ambassador who is a point of contact at each school to help share and disseminate information and be a resource. Unfortunately, only a small number submitted sustainability plans, and so we really need to rethink how we do that going forward to have that be a more relevant, useful document for schools. We have maintained this approximately the same number of schools as green schools certified through the state of Maryland. We have teachers participating in our Green Leader Achievement Unit program, so they're leading green teams and doing additional work to get kids involved in this work, and have participated in a number of outreach and community engagement events. Student leadership has been an opportunity with many of our partners to host students through paid internships, to have grants to schools for student-led opportunities. The picture here is for something for which none of us had anything to do with, which was an entirely student-led climate strike last year, where thousands of students gathered in the harbor to demand that all of us as adults take action to try and move us away from the debacle in which we are currently in and currently headed further into. Several other pieces separate from the direct sustainability plan. I wanted to give an update about the current LEED green building standards. On the left side are all of the schools that are currently certified. We have many now that are certified as gold and silver. We have a number that are anticipated silver. And please note that Graceland and Hollabird are slated to achieve the highest LEED rating, which is platinum. And we're still in the certification process at those two schools. The challenges that we faced are similar to those we have faced in the past, with the addition, of course, of COVID-19. The other new one is, or related to COVID, is trying to transfer things to a digital format. So one of the most compelling pieces of this work for teachers and student engagement is the hands-on nature of the work. And so trying to figure out ways to transfer that to a digital format is, of course, challenging. So focusing for this year, while we keep the equity policy and the blueprint front and center, we are looking at how can we adapt curriculum, as I just mentioned, to distance learning. What you see on the screen is an image from the second grade field trip at Great Kids Farm. And this is a Prezi and is a great example of the team there adapting to the current situation and can be used both by second graders and others, but to really be engaging, and our YouthWorks interns at the farm were integral in help pulling this together as well. And many of our partners are working to adapt their programming as well. Conserving and procuring energy is an ongoing focus for us. Raj can speak about the energy service companies, the ESCO project for lighting at 15 schools and the status of that. Graceland and Hollibird, the buildings were built as net zero energy, but actually operating them as such is another challenge. So the picture on the right is the aerial view of Graceland, and the picture at the bottom is from our energy dashboard. And it's an interactive system whereby everyone at the school can see how much energy is being produced by the solar panels, as well as how much energy is being used, and compare that over time, as well as an interactive tour of the school that shows examples of lighting and insulation and helps teachers and students learn about all of the green features at the building. Another piece is that we do need to be setting ourselves up so that we are in compliance with increased requirements from the state for purchasing of energy from renewable sources. One other piece to focus on that we're focused on for this year is outdoor learning. And while we may not be a Southern California climate where having all of our kids outside year round is a full COVID response for us, we do believe that having kids outside during the different seasons can be a very important and well documented and beneficial approach. We have been trying to do this for many years, really with an environmental focus. And now we're saying getting kids outside is crucial. Many of our kids have been inside now for months, have been sedentary when they are back in the buildings, and those who already are. And when more of our students are, how can we get them outside? That may be a chance to take off your mask. It may be a chance to absorb some sunlight, and it can help with academic outcomes and mental health and physical outcomes. And there's more and more evidence of that. So we're partnering with the City of Office of Sustainability and have gotten several grants and are helping individual schools develop or expand outdoor classrooms and helping to train teachers on how to use those spaces. So that is a very quick overview of last year and a little bit about what's going on this year, and I welcome any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments. Commissioner Bonzima, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. I enjoyed listening to it. Could you do me a favor and put back on the screen your partners?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. There are several things. Before I even go any further, I have 2 or 3 recommendations, and I'm happy to see that you guys are doing a great job. One of the things that I'd like to see in the future, and I'm sure everybody's listening would too, and you're doing most of it, so I'm not saying that you're not doing it. It's one of the things that when I was a professor, and that I think that needs to occur now, is making sure the children at any grade level gets to go outside and observe wetlands. And you do have all of these organizations here that probably already participate in that. But when you take those kids out to wetlands and spend the day out there, collect samples and teach a class at a wetland, it's very, it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful experience that you can video and that you can share, take it back to the classroom, and teach all levels of academics when you go out to a wetland. And I'm sure all the scientists that's listening would agree to that. That's one thing. And I really encourage, I'd like to see all levels get involved in wetland environmental activities and to get that hands-on experience. I wish you could add that to it. And I asked, and the reason why I asked if you could put your, it's not showing all of, to put your partners back on here, is because one thing that I noticed, and not just here, we don't include enough colleges and universities as partners, permanent partners. And I'll say this now, and I'll say it over and over again. Universities are anxious to work with kids, especially in Baltimore City. They have money, they have grants, and some of the activities that will cost us funds, will cost us money, they already have it. And they need, in many cases, they need to have participation of Baltimore City Public Schools. And I know that you probably are working with some schools. For example, I think you're already on board with Morgan State University in the science department. I know that you're probably doing that. Excellence in Science and Math with Dr. Kevin Peters. I know you are, but there are other schools like Hopkins that you're already involved with, but there's science departments. And because we're short of funds at different times, they would be happy to include our students in some of their programs. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, the third thing, when we talk about ordering environmental safe materials, approved cleaning materials, and they're ordered, from what I understand you just said, they're ordered from the school. Whoever's in charge will do the ordering. Why don't you have at the headquarters order all of the supplies for the system and then have the schools, because that will assure that we have approved cleaning materials and supplies, and each of the schools will order from us from the headquarters, and that will also help us to control how we spend our funds on supplies. And you may be able to answer that, but I think it would be a good idea. There must be a reason why you don't do it that way. But if it is, you could just share with us what you think of that system.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I could respond to the first two, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Washington to respond to the third one, if she could. So regarding wetlands, I completely agree with you. I think whenever we get kids outside, it's often transformational. So I completely agree with you. On the second one, I also agree with you, and I wanted to highlight one partnership, which is our work with the aquarium for our 7th grade outing there, and students go to the aquarium, and actually most of the time is spent outside doing water quality testing and pulling up oyster cages and things. And the aquarium works with Morgan State, Towson, and Coppin on pre-service teachers, and the students are there staffing all of the stations, and it's been a wonderful program for all sides and has really allowed us to make that program work, and I think has been beneficial for them as well. So thank you for that.
Can I cut, since you already dealt with that second one, before you get to the third one, can I add something to that?
Of course.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because it's a wonderful program at the aquarium. But what I'm talking about is an ongoing program that goes across semesters, whereas the students might even come on campus or be carried out to different activities. And for example, like we were talking about wetland on Eastern Shore and different parts of the state of Maryland, but an ongoing weekly or bi-weekly or monthly project that they would continue to be involved with some of the teachers and professors, and not, what you're saying is wonderful, but not just one time activity, but an activity that would go on or continue through the year, where they would be totally connected and partner with, and not just Morgan. We are lucky in Baltimore to have some of the best colleges and universities in the country, and all of them are actively involved with our school system, or want to be. So great, we have it in one place and we go there, but it would be great if sometimes they only use one school, maybe 2 or 3 schools, but they will be actively through the year, which will help our teachers, our student teachers, all of that would be involved in the project. I'm sorry, I wanted to add that to it.
Thank you.
And Dr. Washington?
So the last question you asked was about schools the process coming to a central office in terms of ordering of supplies and some of those cleaning products. And I would say that during COVID, that's what we are doing, right? So
Okay.
we're doing some of the purchase of cleaning projects, but the purpose and the reason is because of the break in the supply chain. We don't want schools to have to try to go out and try to find supplies and different things like that. We're managing it from our side. The
Okay.
difficulty is that generally historically schools have also always managed their budget because they also have custodians on their side, and they oversee custodians. The challenge with it moving completely district office, I will say that even now, as we are doing this distribution and also the purchasing of the items, it's a challenge because we don't have staff that supports that because we haven't
Okay.
done it in the past. Right now, most of our staff are doing double duty. They're doing their day job and also doing this job, logistics and also distribution. And so in order for the district to take this on permanently, we would also have to, do a lot more staffing on district office side in order to support that work. But yes, it's something that we're doing during COVID because of the impacts on the supply chain and to support schools.
Okay.
And also to
Thank
ensure
you.
that they get those supplies. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Reed, I see your hand, but both of my questions actually had to do with the redistricting of purchasing the correct supplies for the school. So I just want to piggyback on that point. Chief Washington, do we have any type of feedback from the school-based leaders in any feedback around us redistricting that responsibility? Has it been easier for them? Has it been more efficient? I know from a district side that's more efficient in ensuring that the appropriate supplies are in the buildings, but has there been any type of pushback or support of redistricting that process?
I mean, I think that there would have to be further conversations. I think that a lot of the school principals, they like to be able to control and manage their budget, particularly because they're providing the oversight for custodians who are doing the cleaning in the school space. So we haven't formally engaged the principals or formally had that conversation at a cabinet level to say, this is something that we want to proceed permanently. As we're doing it. But like I said, if this was something that we decide to do permanently, there would have to be additional staffing support to be hired because we don't have that capacity. But as we're doing right now, because we don't have, all of our schools open and everybody in session, it's working for us for people to take on other tasks and duties to hold this up.
But thus far, it's been successful in not only purchasing the appropriate supplies, but in terms of cost savings around that as well.
So I would have to do a deep dive and an analysis to see if there have been cost savings and it's been successful in terms of cost savings. But I would say that from the perspective of us being able to purchase all of these items wholesale and then going out and distributing to schools, yes, we've been able to move that. Just one second. We've been able to move that. But in terms of cost savings, we definitely have to run the analysis of our team doing the distribution and purchasing versus it happening in the schools.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Reed.
Joanna, great job. Thank you very much. And part of your presentation was politically correct, so I'm going to get back to one of your slides later. Dr. Washington, how old is your kid?
So I have two at home. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. Lots of fun.
I didn't know, so now I know. Okay, I guess I have a.
Those are the only two, Lynette.
Those are the two that are home for right now. I have two other in daycare. They're not home right now.
Okay.
Other than that, it would be a party.
Okay. All right. I have a multitude of questions. I guess first I'd like to start with, can board members go on these trips when you go to these unique places? I mean, is there some kind of chart or list where we can be like the shadow or the fly on the wall, so to speak, for some of these nice trips that you have?
Sure, I would be happy to, when the trips resume, to keep your email handy and let you know when you could shadow and go out on the boat in the bay or out to the, electronics museum or whatever it may be. So I will do that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, I guess here are my questions. Okay, first we talked about the whole sustainability, we got kids working with office sustainability, parks and people, great kids. My first question is, do they lead to college and jobs? The second is, in terms of the healthy schools programs, how do we know it's working? What is it doing to enhance and elevate the level of nutrition for kids and families? A third, I guess, my last one is the whole idea behind, you said not enough money to retrofit. So I guess the pie in the sky is we want more in terms of having these buildings go solar and more efficient, but there's not enough money. So what would be, if you had a game plan, Dr. Washington and your team, how would we get money so we can do this retrofit and get these things to happen? I know it's 3 questions. And also, if you can you pull that slide that came before SY 22 focus? Because I think that got to some of the questions that. And it points out to me that there are things that you want to get done, but we don't have the money or the facility to get that done. Thank you.
So, Dr. Washington, do you want to start with the retrofit budget question?
Yes. So I think that one of the things that Joanna showed is that they're taking very creative steps of using various credits like the BGE process in order to do lighting upgrades. We presented to the board previously under the Chief of Staff's office this movement towards an ESCO, by using an ESCO to try to do some cost savings, where we pay some funds on the front end, and then there's cost savings that are achieved over a course of time in order to do more lighting projects. And so I believe that there's about 15 lighting projects through the ESCO project or program that we've presented sometime earlier this year. So those are different avenues that we're taking, because again, some other districts would be using their capital dollars to do some of these retros and these upgrades, where ours are limited in terms of how much we can do district-wide.
So if I could move it then to the question about jobs, and I think this is an excellent question and something that the effort that I work on, the Cities Connecting Children to Nature, one of the 3 goals of that program is about green careers. And I was fortunate to just work with our CTE office actually for a presentation last Friday about exploring green careers. And so we had 3 people here in Baltimore talking about what it means to have a green career and what type of education you may need to get those jobs. So it is a fast growing sector, and some of the jobs are excellent entry living wages and some are not. So part of our challenge is figuring out, well, what are the jobs that we can help steer kids to, and what are the educational or certification requirements that are needed such that they can obtain a living wage. And so that's something that this helped to open that door and that conversation more with the CTE office, that we hope to be expanding and participating in more statewide efforts, because there's something called Project Green Classrooms, which is a Hogan program all about environmental education and green jobs. And so we hope to be bolstering that information and really providing good, solid evidence to teachers and students about what pathways they can follow. On the nutrition side, I believe that Liz Marchetta is on the phone, on the call as well. And if so, are you able to address the question about the benefits of the nutrition education and programming? Maybe not.
No, Joanna, can you say that again? I may have been talking. This is Chris Doherty, and Liz and I were working on a quick hit item, and I bet we would both benefit if you repeated your question for Liz. Thank you.
So actually, Commissioner Reed, could you repeat the question?
I guess my whole idea is it makes all kinds of sense to have the programs for kids and families for nutrition. But how do we evaluate and know it's working and the long-term benefits of that initiative?
So it seems like Liz has stepped off the call. So
I'm here now, Joanna. I apologize.
You're coming in very sketchy, Liz.
Yes, Liz, unfortunately, it's hard to hear you. I don't know, maybe your internet connection is weak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, Liz. And did you get
Great.
a good listen to Commissioner Reed's query?
No, could you please repeat the question? Thank you.
It gets worse every time I say it. This is the third time.
Sorry, Commissioner.
No, that's all right, Chris. I guess my question is, it makes all kinds of sense to create programs for nutrition for the kids in schools. But how do we discern the benefits to kids and families, both short-term and long-term, with these programs? And how do we gauge it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say because of a lot of the farms to schools research and just, more programming that has taken off in the past decade, there is a wealth of information that I can share with you about the benefits of farms to schools programming, which includes things like nutrition education, but also understanding, things like seedlings and, growing the actual food. So there's a variety of public health benefits. Just one thing that sticks in my mind is that the $1 of education around nutrition saves about $10 in long-term, like lifetime healthcare costs. So, as a country, I don't say we invest enough on that front end in nutrition education. And there's a variety of ways it can be implemented. I got it when I was in home ec. But there's really an opportunity to really expand it to things like people touring their, cafeteria kitchens, and learning about the food and agricultural science too. So I, don't want to limit it, but I'm happy to share a lot of the, peer-reviewed, science research that supports the variety of benefits, not just health, but as well as, education and academic performance.
I live in West Baltimore, 21216. So how can you convince me that kids are more invested in buying that soft drink and a bag of chips on their way to school versus getting your apple and your carrot in school? Because I see a lot of kids walking to school with unhealthy foods because it doesn't cost much and it's filling. So how can we make that transition?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. And I agree that kids are just like adults. We respond to the, environment and the choices that are there. And we also just have biological chemical responses to good tasting food. That's why they've made it that way. I think there are a lot of, community level programming, occurring in West Baltimore, and Southwest Baltimore around this. I don't think it is, I think it is extremely important. I think the other thing that I would just highlight too is, beyond the, fuzzy feeling aspect of it, there really is good science around this in terms of the health and educational benefits. And there's a lot of information now that's coming out about community benefits in terms of crime reduction for green spaces. And so that, really extends beyond nutrition education, but I think is something really important when we think about access to green spaces beyond gardening and the benefits that it really poses as for our community in a way that is, much cheaper than a lot of our current interventions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the questions, and thank you so much for your thoughtful and comprehensive responses. we can prepare for the next presentation, the ERP update, please.
Madam Chair, before we go to the next one, could be in the very beginning, coming from questions from a community and anybody, could we ask that whenever we do a presentation, instead of giving acronyms ERP, could we write out what ERP means for people who don't know what it is? I noticed that occurs, and not anybody's fault. This is not laying blame or anything, but people in community, we want to make sure that we realize that there are people who don't understand what we understand. We want to make sure we bring them aboard and be very transparent about everything we do. And could they make sure they put in their presentation what ERP is? Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for flagging that, Commissioner Bondima. Christian, did you note that?
Yes, Commissioner Roberts.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, we have to expand that. I'm Anand Subaya, Director for IT Applications, and today we are presenting new Enterprise Resource Planning, which stands for ERP, which includes human capital, payroll, finance, and everything. It's part of this core modules, inventory management, and everything is part of this core module. And today I have a team, Ms. Watkins, who is our IT ERP manager, as well as project manager for city school side. And we have Ms. Melissa Miller from our external partner, Plan Moran, who will be guiding city schools implementing all phases of this project. So I'll hand over this presentation to Ms. Miller.
Thank you. So do we have the presentation up?
Yes, Melissa, please go ahead.
So I can't share the presentation. I don't see it on my screen. Okay.
We don't see you either. It'd be good to see you.
Ms. Miller, I just made you a presenter, so you should be able to present now.
Thank you.
And just following up on Commissioner Bondima's point, can you remind the community what ERP stands for when you, I guess, when you start?
Absolutely. So it's Enterprise Resource Planning. It is software that is the backbone and core to all of the work that you do in terms of finance, procurement, payroll, time and attendance, and everything that goes along with that, your employee self-service portals. So it is a software product that really runs your back end office administration. So Baltimore City Schools is in the process of replacing your legacy system because it has achieved what is called in the industry as end of life, meaning that the product is being put away by the vendor who sold you that product that you've used for over 20 years. And so at this point, you need to select and move on to a new modern enterprise resource planning software system. So the district is in the process of selecting that. Just want to give you a quick update. We met with you several months ago to provide a baseline of the project, and just want to let you know today where we stand. So we're going to just briefly talk about the project organization, give you a status update, and talk about next steps, and then staff augmentation efforts. So to remind everybody, this project is being led by an executive steering committee of your chiefs. It's being supported by a number of individuals in your organization, including Ty, who is the project manager. Ted King and Josh Sivan are supporting from a procurement and legal perspective. And then you've got a large group that is the selection committee. There are 16 members, voting members of that selection committee, who will be identifying and recommending the successful vendor in this procurement. and that then we are providing support as Plant Moran. So we've got a team that has been working with your team since early March. So where do we stand in the project? So we started by doing an assessment of your needs and requirements for the software so that we could move to the second phase, which was putting a request for proposal, an RFP, out on the street, and that was done. And the proposals were returned by vendors on November 19th. So we are now in phase 3, which is evaluation of those vendor proposals and selection of the finalist vendor. That will be a multi-step process that we're just beginning right now. Let's talk about some key dates. So we kicked off the project in early March. We worked to develop the functional requirements and specifications. Process maps are visual maps of how the process actually happens. So you have a starting point and each task is identified till the ending point of that process. Those were developed and put out with the RFP so the vendors would understand in a visual way what you wanted the processes to be in the future. There was an RFP that was created by the procurement team led by Ted King and supported by Plant Moran, and it went out on the street. It was released to the vendor community on October 9th. It was returned on November 19th, and the selection committee has been reviewing the responses, and we will be meeting this afternoon to develop a short list of vendors who will move forward with the remainder of the process. The remainder of the process includes vendor demonstrations. So the vendors will do virtual demonstrations of their products for the selection committee. Those activities will happen in January. Then there'll be some other due diligence activities such as reference checking, talking to peer districts who had that software installed, understanding what that process looked like. Are they happy with the software? How did the implementation process go? How did they train the end users? So we'll get the good and bad feedback about all of the vendors who will remain under consideration and have done the demos. And then there will be a final selection that will take place. We anticipate right now that will be sometime in February or March. We want to make sure this phase of selection is obviously most critical. You want to make sure that you get not only the right solution, but the right vendor to support your implementation. So we want to do our due diligence, take our time, do the follow-up that's required, and that's why we've got a range of dates for that final selection. We need to make sure you've got all of the information you need to make a mindful selection. Once the selection is complete, then we would move into contract negotiations and statement of work, which is what SOW is. We would move into those conversations with the vendor. Procurement and the legal team would lead those efforts. And then once they have got a contract negotiated, that would obviously then come to your board for approval to move forward with phase 5, which is the implementation. The implementation would most likely range anywhere from 18 to 24 months. And then the last piece we wanted to share in terms of an update is a staff augmentation process that is going on. So the implementation of a new ERP requires a lot of time and effort by the key individuals within your organization. So procurement, finance, payroll, everybody needs to be involved to make sure that HR, sorry, didn't mean to leave them out, to make sure that the new system is set up and configured the way you need it to be for the future administration of all of these functions. So it's not something the vendor can do by themselves. because it's important that your team is making the decisions, that your team is determining how they need this to function. So the vendor presents options, and then your team makes the final decisions regarding that. So it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of resource availability to work on this project over that 24-month period. And that requires that you bring in some additional staffing to backfill those individuals that you're going to release to work on this implementation project. So Ty, I don't know if you have anything to say about this further.
No, I think you said most of it, but I do want to stress that we are going to be working, so on the IT side, ITD side, we're going to be working with human capital and finance to make sure that all of the areas have gotten what staff augmentation needs that they have addressed, so that those folks can help with the day-to-day operations, so that key people in finance in HC and ITD can actually work with the vendor and make those decisions, so that we come up with an implementation that everyone has participated in and everyone agrees with. So that's the need there.
Thank you. Just want to jump back to this slide in closing and say that to get where we are today has taken us a little bit longer than we anticipated. But if you notice, the project kickoff happened to be before the schools were closed with COVID. So we found that working in a virtual environment, plus the focus being shifted from this project to getting all of your plans in place to continue operations under this horrific event, did take a little longer to get where we needed to be. But your team has been absolutely wonderful, absolutely committed. They have wanted to do things right. So we've taken a little extra time where we needed to make sure that the requests for proposals that went out on the street were the best that they could be and put you in the best position for success moving forward. So I did not note that when we were looking at these dates before, so I just wanted to add that before we close. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Melissa, for your updates on today's ERP where we're status. I'd like to start with Commissioner Reed for questions.
I think in the past, Chris did a great job in talking about why we need additional staffers going forward. I guess first, Melissa, you're in Michigan or in Maryland?
I'm in Michigan.
How often do you come to town for the meetings?
So the intention was for me to be in town quite often. Given the impact of COVID, I haven't been there since March. But as we move through the implementation, when everything reopens and everybody starts traveling again, the thought is that myself and my team would be there at least 50% of our time.
We have which is the piece, which makes sense. And then we probably possibly with an operating. In terms of who owns this, does the steering committee own this? Does Anand, do you own this? Does the commissioners own this? Because commissioners, we're probably the least expert in this whole process. So my question is, who owns this process? And if based on who owns it, what concerns should we have as commissioners in terms of implementation, additional staffers, slippage? Because one thing that resonates probably with the whole public now is what happened at Baltimore City a year or so ago, and what recently happened at Baltimore County Public Schools in terms of their technology. I know your technology is going to be integrated to a lot of different things, but the last thing we need is something that shuts the whole system down.
Melissa, can I jump in with that?
Please do.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. And actually, it's probably no coincidence, the slide that's up. I think the bureaucratic answer and the real world answer are the same, which is good when that happens. I think the owner / owners of this is the Executive Steering Committee, and which you see there is made up of the current heads of finance, human capital, and ITD. And I think sometimes there is a potential drawback if you have a three-headed ownership structure, and that's why. And this is not well, those aren't alphabetical. That the first among equals on that triumvirate is me, Chris Doherty, the CFO. And the reason the three of us and the three offices are there is actually because we have the most skin in the game. It wasn't so much that it was ambition or any kind of getting the tap from the CEO. It was which functions live or die by a successful ERP adoption, and that's who was put in charge of it. And we have what we jokingly refer to, or sometimes not so jokingly, a very healthy fear of any kind of suboptimal ERP adoption process, because payroll, accounting, grants, finance, all the functions of human capital and ITD, we will absolutely live or die with this implementation. And that is what drove, before my arrival, putting a significant amount of money in place, thanks to the board, to get best-in-class consultants to help us with this implementation. The reason I point that decision out is because I think it was an excellent one that predates me. It was big systems sometimes do ERP adoptions on their own, and I think it's an excellent use of having consultants that do these kinds of things, like Plant Moran, essentially all day, every day. I too lament, because of COVID, the fact that Melissa and her colleagues aren't, camped out at 200 East North Avenue and working with us on all manner of things. I definitely think we're going to get every pound of flesh that we can out of that contract, and have been doing so. But when things hopefully get back to normal, that'll be a big part of what we do. But finance is going to live or die with this ERP, and that's why we're involved. Same with HC, and ITD, of course, has co-equal rights to say so much of what they do will be part of whether the ERP sings or the ERP flounders. And so I know it's kind of negatively framed that we have the most skin in the game and we have the most concern, but that's the reason why we've been put front and center on this. And when we go through, like Melissa mentioned and like Ty mentioned, we have a very long, in-depth meeting planned for 2:00 today. That's where we have the subject matter experts who are going through line by line and saying, does a proposed contractor have this facility, this facility, this facility, because they've all made their wish lists on what would they change if they could, because we really have cobbled together this 20-year-old system with a bunch of patches and a bunch of solutions that take a lot of person hours to solve. And the good news is the key people, not just the people whose names you see on that, but the dozens of people besides them, they have a visceral desire to improve the kinds of things that they currently have to do workarounds for in the ERP. So that they really know that for them too, the quality of their life will either plummet or improve based on how good or not, how well or not well the ERP does. And so we kind of have a love-hate relationship with it, Commissioner, to tell you the truth. It's a ton of work and it's super complicated, but we're all infatuated with the possibility that we're going to get the kind of ERP we've all been dreaming about. So that's how we decided who is in what role with the ERP.
Who runs IT? Does Anand run IT or consultant run IT?
Oh, IT runs IT. Anand and Michael and Armsby. Yeah, we're IT is being run by IT, not by a consultant.
Michael Redding is our new interim executive director for IT.
Again, I'm sorry. What's that again?
Michael Redding, who is our new interim executive director for IT.
Good morning, Commissioner Reed. So that's me. So I am the interim executive director of IT, and as Chief Chris had mentioned before, the executive steering committee has overall responsibility of the implementation of this new system, and it's something we don't take lightly, and we have been working and will continue to work towards the implementation of the new solution.
Commissioner Reed, if I could interject here, and while we have Michael, while Commissioner Reed asked about the talent and where the actual processes live, my concern here, and being just across the street from a jurisdiction that just had a ransomware attack, can someone speak to us about the preventative efforts around our network security as we're doing such an extensive overhaul of, quite honestly, one of our biggest internal operating processes for the district?
So, I mean, I can speak to the fact that as part of the selection, we have 3 primary categories. One is the functionality, the functional requirements of how the system works. The second is the vendor fit and what projects they have successfully achieved with K-12 school districts, especially large K-12 school districts. The third category is all about the technical components of the ERP system and making sure that they have a very robust security process and plan in place. So it is, an equal consideration when you are making the decision of which ERP to select as your new system. It will be a large focus of conversation in our selection meeting today. It was a major component in what we asked the vendors to respond to with their vendor proposals. And they have provided just reams of information about their security procedures and protocols. So it is utmost important in the selection that they meet the requirements that your ITD team expects them to meet in order to move forward to be on the short list and considered for a finalist. And Michael, I don't know if you have more to add.
I would like to just add to that as a part of the selection committee, the ITD security team is on that selection committee and has a vote. So they are actively looking through these proposals, and they actively provided a great deal of requirements surrounding the security protocols for the vendors and how they would work with what we currently have at city schools. So we are very concerned about that, and we are trying to make sure that as we balance the needs of human capital and finance, we're making sure that those security issues are firmly addressed.
And if I could just add one more thing too, as part of the requirements process, one of the things we have looked at is industry best standards as it relates to security as well. And so everything that covers, confidentiality of information, making sure that information is secure, at rest and in motion, looking at integrity, just making sure that information doesn't get changed. And when it does get changed, it's only going to be changed by authorized individuals in the organization. And then availability too, which speaks to the systems that the vendors that we're going to be looking into have to ensure that that they have really good backup processes, that if anything were to happen, there's built-in redundancy in the way they operate and the way they function. And, those provisions are also going to roll into the contract language as well. And so from just a contractual perspective, I think there's been a lot of work done, especially with the help of legal, to strengthen our privacy and confidentiality provisions in our standard contract language. And we're definitely going to be looking to incorporate some of that language and some of those provisions into a contract, looking forward to when we're ready to make an award.
Thank you so much for those responses. Were there any other questions around this topic before I move on to another component not to the next presentation, but I have another question related to this update. Commissioner Bondima, did you have any questions around this?
Oh, no, thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay. I did have a question, the slide around staff augmentation. I do know that in a previous update, there were questions around MBE participation. And so I wanted to know if there were any considerations for the vendors around MBE participation and any opportunities for MBE involvement there.
There were MBE requirements, MBE WBE requirements in the RFP itself. Forgive me, I don't recall the exact percentages. Ty, I'm not sure if you do.
15.5, I believe.
That is correct, 15 and 5%.
Yes.
That is part of our contract right now.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Frank would be so excited if he were here today to hear that. I know that is something that he is very interested in ensuring that we always create opportunities for MBE, WMBE participation. So thank you.
Commissioner Roberts, can I add a sentence or two to that?
Absolutely.
Thank you for your question, and the fact that 15.5 was on the tips of all of our tongues. We obviously worked closely with the MBE, WBE office. When we were doing some benchmarking and looking around, we found that a lot of big districts actually exclude big IT contracts from any kind of goal setting in MBE, WBE, which we found very interesting. In other words, when we went out to Council of Great City Schools and ERS groups to just kind of get a lay of the land, we found a lot of folks set no goals at all, and and let alone requirements. And so we were proud of the fact that that we put these requirements on there, which of course I also, when we were doing this, found that sometimes folks will say they have goals, but if the goals, the goals aren't met, there are different implications. And so not only did we have the highest numbers that we saw in this space, but we also have them not as goals, but as requirements, that if someone has to come back and hit those numbers, or they're considered non-responsive. So we are also very, very, very proud of that. And it's a big contract, big numbers. And so we very much, we're happy to hear your comments. And it's too bad that Andy Frank is not here, Commissioner Frank is not here. But we're pleased with where we are on this.
Thank you so much for those additional details. And kudos to the team for adding that not only as a goal, but as a requirement, because that's a big difference. And it says a lot about where we're going as a district in terms of MBE and WMBE involvement. Any questions before we move on? This was such an extensive presentation, and thank you so much for the update. We can move on to the 21st century update.
Hi, can you guys see me? And you can hear me?
Now we can see you.
Okay, good. Let me share my screen. Good. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So just as a backdrop, the Maryland Stadium Authority, due to, again, efficient project management and some bond issuance, they were able to save $60 million for the continued renovation of our schools. So Governor, I think, Hogan actually did a press release back in September. So a key part of that was making sure that our students are educated in facilities that are modern, safe, and efficient. So the plan here that we're showing with the 3D images shows a 80,000 square foot addition building that dates back to 1926. Again, this is Highlandtown. We have a 2007 addition and a 2007 addition gym. The original Jacobs report was to renovate the school as part of year 10. But when the Canton building, again as a backdrop, was pulled from phase 1, Commodore John Rogers and Highlandtown were moved up as addition-only projects. So the project scope for these schools, these two schools, and we're talking about Highlandtown now, was addition only. And that was to take care of the overcrowding that was occurring at the school. The SRC currently for that school, which is the student ratio capacity, it should be 536 for school year 27-18. But we're projected to have 400 additional students school year 2020 to 2021. The new addition is around 30,000 square feet with a projected cost of $20.9 million. And this is for the new building only. If we had to do the addition, the 2007 and the 1926 building, that would be an additional $26 million. Obviously, City Schools does not have that funding, and that was not the scope that was approved by the MOU committee back in 2017, 2018. So this new 2021 addition is going to create a disparity for the students and for the educators at that school in terms of aesthetics, in terms of technology, furniture finishes, security. There's going to be a huge disparity, and you're going to end up with the haves versus the have-nots. So to mitigate this, we are recommended a light refresh to be done for the existing building, the 80,000 square feet that's not being touched. And the scope of work, I kind of just create some high-level summary of what that scope of work would look like and the preliminary numbers as received and has coordinated with the MSA. So we are planning on upgrading the audiovisual and technology because that's very important for students, as well as the security systems, because we have an old outdated security system that no longer has much of a platform, which needs to be merged with a new security system. We currently have fluorescent light fixtures that needs to be changed to LEDs, which add to energy efficiency. We'd like to refresh the restrooms, change out ceiling tiles and grid and patch and paint the walls, in addition to adding some new furniture and fixtures throughout. The cost of this is approximately $6 million. Again, compare that to if you had to do a modernized facility, the cost of that using the IAC model, which is the Interagency Commission, which represents the state, their cost is $329 per square foot. This cost that we're actually requesting right now for approval of funds from that $60 million is $75 a square foot. I've added some pictures that I just wanted you to take a look at so you could see the difference between a 21st century school, nice clean facility, and some of our existing schools. Here for restroom renovations, you can see the epoxy floor, nice plumbing fixtures, clean area, nice panels, and then you can see the existing school as it stands now and the work that it needs. Same thing for classroom renovations. You're at the upper left, you're actually seeing a 21st century classrooms with our board or projectors. Again, nice clean furniture, window treatments. And then you can see the existing classrooms with the old fluorescent fixtures, the old furniture, again, old technology that needs to be changed out. Same for the hallways. The upper left actually shows the 21st century corridor, nicely refreshed. Here in the existing building, you have walls that are chipped, ceiling tiles that need to be changed out. Again, the old fluorescent lighting fixtures. The cafeteria and the gym, even though I'm not showing the gym, again, is a little bit dated as well. The upper left does show the new 21st century cafetorium with, again, new furniture, new flooring, nice, clean facility for kids to learn as well as to eat. And you can see the existing facility on the right, again, with old outdated furniture. Again, the walls are really needs help. The vents for the air really needs to be cleaned out. Those will be a part of the scope of work. I'm just going to go back and land to this landing page. So again, this is just a very high level that shows the difference between a 21st century and the existing building and the reason why we're requesting the funds. I do believe that the $6 million that we're asking for will provide the appearance of a more seamless school, especially when that new building is completed in 2022 in terms of aesthetics and operations. And even though it's not a modernization, it is definitely, I think, the best use of funds for this time. So at this time, I am asking the Board of Commissioners to consider approval or pre-approval for the use of these funds, because this allows us to increase MSA's scope of work. And it also allows for designers and architects to begin compiling all this information so that when we do start construction next spring, it is included in the scope of work. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dorothy, for the presentation. I'd like to open the floor. Commissioner Bondima, do you have any questions?
Yes. No, not a question, but a comment. I really appreciate you showing the photos of the before and after, because it gives us a better insight of what's going to be done. And as you said here, it was built in 1926, so we know that it needs some serious work. But thank you for the presentation. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Reed?
I guess I have two questions. So I guess the first one is, Stadium Authority has 60 million bucks. We're asking for 6. Do we have any plans for big picture ideas for the other 54 million?
So
I see a smile. And I guess my other question is, in this slide right here,
yes,
it's easy for me to understand everything but audio-visual technology infrastructure upgrade, 3 million bucks.
Okay.
What? What are you asking for? I mean, everything below that I understand, but $3 million for audio-visual, it's like, is that for the whole system or just for this school? I don't understand.
So let me break that down for you. And apologies, I just kind of lumped it under the associated work. So for the AV and the technology to proceed, in all the schools you have the old technology. You also need to be upgraded to a Cat5 cable in order to have the new LCD screens, touch screens, which our students are now using. That requires us to have a new data closet with the proper air conditioning in it to ensure that it's around 50, 60 degrees and it doesn't get overheated. From there, we're going to have to run new wires to all these different classrooms. We can't project behind the wall, so we're going to have to run these moldings on the wall so we can get the new LCD screens in. It also includes projector for the students as well. And then the other thing is, when you're running this infrastructure, then you're going to have to be pulling out ceilings and you're going to have to be pulling out ceiling tiles. All that is included under the big lump sum of technology, because that's what infrastructure is all about. It's really just changing the functionality of the basic old systems that you have in a building. So I can break that down further when we do get to the board.
And then can I also, so Commissioner Reed, you also have the question about the $60 million and what the plan is for the whole. So we, Dorothy rightly raised that we need to move forward with this piece because of the time is of the essence on this one piece. We are looking internally at what to do with the full 60 million. We will be making an announcement about how we're spending the full 60 million. We are leaning strongly towards making sure we're using it on programs that are in the existing pipeline. So like this example of a school that was already getting an addition, but we didn't have any resources to do the renovation of the base building. There are some improvements we may make to reach, some things that we probably need to address and reach, and then probably using the remainder of it on the high school plan that we identified last year. So we aren't quite ready to roll out the full proposal yet, but this one was, the time was really pressing on this one, so we wanted to make sure that the board could take action on this so it doesn't slow down the time frame on this one piece.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you very much.
One other thing, so Allison, So before the board, you could do even before the board meeting, make a list of where the additional money funds will be going, the project, so we can move it forward.
Yeah,
So
though I'm not, well, we weren't asking the board at this point to approve the full 60 million. We're asking you to approve this one piece and aren't rolling out the full plan for the 60 million yet.
No,
So we'll come
no,
back.
I mean for the 3 million.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for this to break out that 3 million. Oh,
the audiovisual and the technology. Yes, we will do that. Yes.
Do that.
Okay.
Great question.
Because those questions are going to come up at the board meeting.
Okay.
Public. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Will do.
Thank you.
I do not have any questions. Ms. Hellman, so thank you so much for the presentation. And just before Ms. Hellman leaves, are all questions, all minds and hearts clear? Thank you so much, Ms. Hellman.
You're welcome.
We can move into public comment. Christian, do we have anyone signed up for public comment today?
No, we don't.
Well,
We don't have to review procurement.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. We have one procurement item today. Is Joe on the line? Thank you so much for that, Commissioner Bondima.
No problem, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Joe Vogel, Interim Director of Procurement. And this is a very light procurement agenda today. There is only one item, and it is a competitively solicited contract with Chilmar Corporation for providing pipe installation, replacement construction services at Glen Mount School. The total amount of the contract is $682,871.
Commissioner Reed.
I recommend approval.
Well, so there's no questions there, Commissioner.
Hey, Joe, I'm not normally this nice. You know that, right? Thank
Commissioner, you're always nice.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bondima, any questions on this?
I'm good, thank you.
Same, I didn't have any questions on this one either. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you. You're welcome. Everybody be safe.
You too.
Thank you, you as well.
Now we can move into public comment. And Christian, you said there were none?
Correct. Oh, correct, Commissioner.
All right, so it looks like we are going to conclude today's operations meeting. The next meeting will be in January. January the, goodness, why do I never have it up?
January 19th, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you so much. We will have the next operations meeting on January the 19th. Everyone have an amazing holiday season. And New Year's. Oh my goodness, we're at the end of 2020. We survived. We survived 2020. And thank you everyone for today's presentations, all of your efforts, all of your collective work. The operations committee, we clearly see all of your efforts. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Happy holiday, everybody. Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.